Hello everyone, this is part 20 of What If Naruto Was Adopted by Kakashi, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Naruto was mainly bored at the moment. Everyone that had made it was led to some giant forested area that was fenced off. He had heard of the Forest of Death, but this was the first time seeing it. Okay, sure, he was a bit intimidated by it all, and he heard the stories about all the dangerous things in there. Then again, it had been Anko to tell those stories, so he wasn't sure how much was true and how much she was just trying to freak him out. At any rate, he was still trying to burn out the image in his mind thanks to Kiba. Sakura nudged him. "Are you paying attention?" She whispered. "Oh, yeah, of course." He grinned at her. Then he noticed the look she was giving him. "Hey, is this the face of a lair?" Sakura scowled at the masked boy, wondering if Naruto even remembered that he wore a mask all the time. Anko went into about how dangerous the forest was and the whole setup for this part of the exam. How one team had one scroll and you needed 2 scrolls, but not just any 2. You needed 1 Heave and 1 Earth scroll. So the point was for the teams to basically life off the forest for 3 days, while fending off the other teams and beating the hell of the others to steal the other one they would need. After that, they were to go to the tower in the center of the forest, but only after 3 days would they be allowed in. Wait, even though we get both, we have to wait at least 3 whole days. What kind of stupid rule is that? Kiba asked himself. He suddenly found a kunai up against his throat and looked to see the maniacal smile of Anko next to him. "Well, if it isn't the whistleblower, you really can't keep that big mouth of yours shut, huh, dog boy? Now I want you to behave because I'm not above neutering you. Do we understand now?" Kiba gulped and nodded. "Good," she said, pulling the weapon back and walking off. She wasn't sure if that made things even, but it was a start at least. After that, things went a bit more smoothly. Each team was assigned a gate to enter as well as a scroll. Sakura was picked to carry the scroll for the team as she was dependable for it. After that, Naruto wanted to speak to Hinata one last time, but her team had already left for the gate. He found her and her team just as they were getting ready to depart for their own gate. "Hey Hinata-chan, wait up," Naruto called out as he approached his girlfriend. "Hey, I wanted to see you off before we started." Hinata smiled as her cheeks grew red. Thank you, Naruto-kun. Good luck when you're out there." "I don't need luck, I got cool skills," Naruto smirked proudly as he jerked his thumb towards his chest. "It is best not to underestimate the other teams," Shino said to him. "Although many are from this village, the ones who are not your friends will hardly pull their punches. Plus the others from villages other than our own surely will not hold back." Naruto sighed. "You really know how to depress a guy, you know that." Kiba could only grin at the masked boy's response. "Yeah, and don't count us out either, I bet you we'll get to the tower before you." "Oh yeah. So what's the bet going to be?" Naruto grinned. Normally he had great luck with bets, so he figured he would try to see what Kiba had in mind. The taller boy blushed a bit as he leaned down to whisper something into his ear. Naruto blinked in surprise, but he gave a small perverted giggle much like his dad. He had to admit that Kiba had good tastes at least. "Alright, I think I can work something out," he told him. Then he thought about what he would like for Kiba to do. It was too bad that he was dating Hinata. A part of him wondered if he could have gotten Kiba to get a naked picture of his older sister. He had to admit that she had grown since he first met her. He even once managed to dare him to steal a pair of her panties once, a year ago when they were playing a daring game. Kiba got caught, and boy, his sister and mother were scary when mad. He also realized he needed to get Kiba back for putting that damn mental image of his father and Anko in his mind, and for the betting. He suddenly got a very nasty image in his mind. "Okay, if I win, then you have to put on a dog collar and Aunt Anko gets to take you for a walk around the block on a leash." Naruto figured that Anko would love the idea and would love to get in her own revenge with him. Kiba paled at the thought, but honestly it was worth it. "Fine, but you better believe that I'm not going to lose this bet." Naruto then looked at Hinata and gave her a warm look. "Take care of Hinata-chan too, because if anything happens to her then you'll answer to me. Got it, you guys? She is our teammate," Shino said calmly to him. "We will always look out for one another." Yeah, you can trust us, Kiba nodded. Naruto nodded to them both and hugged Hinata. She was surprised by the public display of affection, but she soon gave a small sigh as she hugged him back. She then felt a small kiss on her neck, making her face turn bright red. I'll miss you, Haim-chan. It was the first time he had used a pet name for her, and she kind of liked being called princess, at least by him. He said it in a way that was filled with warm emotion as well. She felt like she could float and for a moment was wondering why she was seeing the sky before she blacked out again. Ha! Hinata! Naruto shouted out in surprise, holding his once again unconscious girlfriend. Ah, damn it, did you have to take it so far? Kiba said, a bit frustrated at this. After seeing this for years, both Kiba and Shino carried an ample supply of smelling salts. He gently took Hinata from Naruto as Shino dug into his pockets for the small vial he carried. Oh man, I really hope she gets over the fainting thing. Naruto scratched the back of his head. The blushing was cute, but one of these days he felt her fainting was going to land him in trouble one day. Just get going, Kiba sighed as Shino started to apply the smelling salts. I bet your team is looking for you and we need to hurry and get to our gate. After apologizing again, he ran off to find Sakura and Sasuke. He managed to find them as they had been waiting for him to show up. By the annoyed looks, he had been gone a little too long, so he gave an excuse about being lost on the path of life. He had thought it was funny, but apparently they just gave him a twin set of death glares that shut him up after it. They were silently making their way to the gate at that moment when they were stopped just short of reaching it. Hey you three, a voice called out to Team 7. The three Genins turned to see another Genin team walking towards them. They noticed the mist headbands they were wearing. They seemed to have singled out Team 7 for some reason. There was a girl, with two boys like their own team. The girl had on bandages over her body for some reason, with long dark hair, dressed in all in white with cargo pants and a shirt with the sleeves cut off. The other boy was a bit taller than either of them, wearing goggles on his eyes. He had strong features and looked like he would be a huge man one day. It was the last one, was the one that had yelled at them. He had dark brown spiky hair and piercing blue eyes, thin face with sharp features. He looked like the leader of the group as he stood between the others. He carried a thick sword on his back, almost like a miniature version of the sword that Zabuza used, only without any holes in it. You are the team that supposedly killed the traitor Zabuza Motoki? The leader asked them. Who wants to know? Sasuke asked, giving him a level glare. The lead boy cast a glare at Sasuke for a different reason, the last of the Uchiha, right? It's a pity that your kind wasn't wiped out. What the hell do you mean by that? Sasuke demanded. Bloodlines are an abomination in this world, that's what. The other boy stated. We took care of those mistakes in our country. It was then that Naruto remembered the story that Haku told him, about how everyone in the land of water who had any bloodline was hunted down and killed. How Haku's mother had one and kept it secret. When Haku's father found out that Haku and his mother had a bloodline all this time, he had killed his own wife and would have killed his own son as well. Naruto knew the story, but he had never seen such blind hatred for something just because of what they could do. What the hell is your problem? Naruto said angrily to them. Just because someone has a bloodline doesn't mean you have a right to kill them. Well then we'll see about that in the exam. The lead boy smirked at Sasuke, then he turned to Naruto and talked to him. I am Gendo Kaji of the Mist, and these are my teammates. Amy, the girl nodded her head. And Akuma, the taller of the boys, nodded. Yeah, we're the guys, so what do you want from us? Naruto asked Gendo angrily. Gendo fixed Naruto with a praising look and after a moment gave a small grunt. To think that one of the great 7 swordsmen could have been defeated by a weak team. I suppose the traitor was too weak to have died honorably back in Mist. Well, the man was a coward, Amy snickered. He tried to kill the Mizukage, and when he failed he ran like a scared little dog that he was. It was only a matter of time he would be hunted down and killed like any rabid animal. Naruto clenched his fists in anger. Although Zabuza was still very much alive, he didn't like the way these people were talking about him. When I heard you were the team that killed him, I had to see for myself, Gendo said, looking over Team 7. And to my surprise I find a weak-looking pink-haired girl, the last of a cursed bloodline, and a loud mouthful. If this is the team that was responsible, then I weep for our hunting nins. To think they were beat out of their prize by this. Asuma gave a small laugh. Then I guess we'll prove our worth when we beat them. Gendo nodded. If we beat the team that was killed him, then it would prove us very strong and would most likely earn us that promotion. So I hope we run into each other in the forest then, because we will see you sooner or later and we'll kill you to prove our strength. With that the three members left the Leaf Genins as they went to their own gate. What was that all about? Sakura asked them. Sounds like we made ourselves targets by killing Zabuza, Sasuke said, glaring at the Miss Genins. I wouldn't be surprised if that was one of the reasons they chose to enter this exam this year. At any rate, we should be careful, they'll come after us. Sakura sighed, great, as if we don't have enough to worry about. Konoha. Kakashi was walking down the street whistling to himself. After all, things were going great. His team had made it to the second part of the exam with no problems. Now he had 3 days to kill before he showed up at the tower to wait for his team. Although he was a bit worried, after all his son was in this, but he trusted them. The other reason he was in such a good mood was simple. How else does a guy feel when they screw the girlfriend so well they leave nail tracks in his back? He had to make a quick stop at his place to make sure she hadn't drawn blood. She really kept her nails sharp, but for some reason the scratching he didn't mind. It had been surprising how far things went on the roof. He only meant to make out with her, but then things just sort of led further, not that he was complaining. Although he did have to cover her mouth when she got a bit too noisy, it had been one hell of a thrill. Sex out in the open, it sure got the blood pumping. It was then that he had a surprising person show up again in his life. Kakashi noticed a very familiar man leaning against a wall. It was none other than Jiraiya himself, and he looked up at Kakashi as he arrived and nodded to the man. Hey there Kakashi, you mind spending time with an old man for a bit? He asked with a smile. Although Kakashi was to meet up with Anko later, he could afford some time. Sure thing. The two fell into step with another as they walked through the village. Jiraiya had been looking for Kakashi for a while now. He had a few things to talk about, and that was mainly about Naruto. But that could wait for a moment. After all, there were a few things he wanted to talk about. He grinned as he noticed how happy Kakashi was, and his pervert sense was tingling. So, who's the lucky lady? Jiraiya smirked at the taller man. Kakashi was a little surprised by it, but then he remembered that Jiraiya was Konoha's spy master for a reason. Things have developed since the last time you were here. Oh, Jiraiya grinned. Got you a lady friend, huh? Don't suppose you could give me some details? If I did, then Anko would kill us both if she finds out you put her into one of your books, he told him. Anko? You don't mean that girl that was Orochimaru's old student? He asked him, and Kakashi nodded. Huh, hope she's doing well. I think I saw her at the boy's birthday party once when he was a younger. How is the boy doing? I think you'd be surprised by him, Kakashi said. He's coming along very good. He's learning wind nature manipulation at the moment. He's still working on a couple of the jutsus, but given his age that's pretty good. He's also found himself a little girlfriend as well. Now Jiraiya was very proud of his godson. Given his job he couldn't be in Konoha for long periods of time, but he made an exception now and then. With the Chunin exams he wanted to see how Naruto would do, plus if the boy was anything like Minato then maybe he could give the boy some training as well. He had already met the boy at the hot springs with that other little kid, and he had a liking for the boy. But to hear that the boy already had himself a girlfriend was just the icing on the cake. Oh, so who is it? Hinata Hyuga, Kakashi smirked. Jiraiya thought about it as it clicked in his mind. You mean the little girl you said that's been following your son around for years, the heir to the Hyuga clan? Well, I have to say the boy knows how to pick them. I can already see a story in this, the princess and the warrior. Already his mind was thinking of the plot and all kinds of fun he could have with that. Maybe have the boy and princess sneaking off for secret midnight meetings, battling for her honor and love. The story had potential. He'd have to see if he could spy on the boy and his little girlfriend the next time he had the chance. So is all you're here for is a little checkup on Naruto? Kakashi asked the old spy. Partly, Jiraiya said as he cast a quick look around. Mainly I've been on the trail of a certain snake and my sources tell me he's been on the move lately. I can't find anything concrete, but a lot of the rumors have been going around. Plus a few other things have been bothering me, like this new Sound Village. For being one of the smaller nations it's had an unusual growth. No one knows where the village is either, but from what I can tell its forces are starting to rival the larger villages. Kakashi looked surprised at that. Normally the smaller villages didn't have a large supply of forces. Since most jobs went to the larger ones, the smaller ones had to limit their numbers. Too many people without enough income led to ruin quickly. But to have such a large number didn't make sense for Sound. They would need a large number of resources, plus how rich was their village to afford this? Plus where did they get to many ninja in such a short time? The only thing he could think of was that they had to take in rogue or missing ninja from other villages. That was a dangerous practice, as you not only made yourself a target and enemy, but also how could you trust and or control such people? I see you're beginning to see what I'm seeing, Jiraiya said, his face more serious now. Things don't add up. I heard they have a team here, so that's one of the reasons I'm here, to see what kind of ninja they have. Plus there's a rumor one of my old teammates is in the area as well. Kakashi knew that there were only 2 people, and he would have just said Tsunade if he meant her. So that left only Orochimaru. That could mean trouble for this village if that man was around. Things are never easy, are they? Kakashi sighed. No, but then that's the life of a ninja, isn't it? Jiraiya asked. Forest of Death. It had been 2 days and already Team 7 was wishing for the final day to get there. For the past couple of days they had been scouting the forest. They made sure to stick to the trees and to keep hidden. They also avoided any other teams if they could. It wouldn't do them any good to wear themselves out in the first couple of days. So they lived like shadows and always alert. They slept in shifts, ate what they could find in the forest, and always made sure to never leave the team for long periods of time. They also tried to keep the noise down, which was driving Naruto nuts. He hated the quiet, but he knew better than to give their position away. They had found a few teams. Some looked beaten up and limping back to the gate. Most likely they had lost their scroll and were too injured to continue on. Little did they know that they were being stalked almost the entire time. One figure was watching the team from the shadows. The figure moved silently, waiting for the right moment to start the testing. Oh Sasuke, how much of your brother do you resemble, I wonder? The figure grinned in the trees. Can you hold a candle to Itachi's powers? Will you interest me enough, or will you disappoint me? Well, the first thing I'll have to do is break you all up and see if I can get you alone. The others don't matter, but I hope you've enjoyed your life so far, because by the end of this day your life, if you survive, will never be the same again. Outside Forest of Death, Anko was taking a nice long break. After all, she wasn't really needed to enforce any rules, given there weren't many rules to break in the first place. Plus, if any team couldn't make it, she had a few tunins and a medical team on standby if they were needed. She was just to ensure the test ran smoothly and explain the rules. So that left her ample time to relax and just wait for reports to come in, then she could give her orders. Plus it also left her some free time to spend with Kakashi as well, which was really nice. Normally their schedules didn't allow for lots of free time together. But now with his team in the exam and her running it, it left for a lot of free time. At the moment Kakashi was laying with his back to a tree with her snuggled in front of him, and a plate of dango on her lap. At the moment life was good, as she relaxed with him. It was nice just sitting here, not really having a care in the world together, his arms wrapped around her waist, with his chin resting on her shoulder. She used to scoff at people in relationships, how they acted in public, how they talked about the person they said they were in love with and all of that. She never once thought she could ever find a decent guy anyway. After all, she had been the apprentice to one of Konoha's greatest traitors. It had taken a lot of time for people to start to trust her, but the old stigma was still there at times. But Kakashi didn't care about her past, only about her, and it gave her such a warm feeling in her stomach. She smiled as she thought she would never get into a relationship, but here she was. If someone a year ago told her this, she wouldn't have believed them. Hell, she had most likely thought she would die in some mission before she found someone, but it seemed that the train wreck that was her life was finally giving her a decent break. Kakashi sat there with her in his arms as she silently ate the dango he bought for her. He could smell her scent, that husky smell of earth with a sweet smell in the background. He just held her close, feeling her body against his. It had been a very long time since he felt he could open up to anyone. After Obito's death he had taken it pretty hard, then when Rin was lost and presumed dead it didn't get any better. Finally when Minato died Kakashi felt the world was going dark. But there had been that one bright moment as he took Naruto in. Naruto had been the light in his darkest hour of his life, when Kakashi had no one left. Naruto had been the one happy point in his life for years now. Over time he had started to open up again thanks to what it meant being a father. It was strange how young Kakashi was, and yet Naruto was growing up fast. In a few more years Naruto would be a full-blown teenager, and soon after that would most likely move out and start his own life. It was actually kind of depressing for Kakashi to think of the house without Naruto in it. It would seem too quiet, and it was Naruto in the first place that made Kakashi retake the old family home. If he hadn't had Naruto, he most likely would have sold it years ago and just lived in an apartment. But even though he had started to make new friends and new bonds, the one he was reforging with Anko was different. At first they became friends, now they were becoming something more. He felt like that first day he held Naruto in his arms, like he had found that small light in the darkness again. Only this time it was a different type of light, and he was eager to explore and see where it took them. Unfortunately, their perfect afternoon was interrupted by a trio of Chunins that had appeared out of nowhere. Anko-san, the lead Chunin said, nearly out of breath. We have a problem. Anko sighed as he pushed herself out of Kakashi's arms. All she thought was that this had better be good to get her from her two most favorite things in the world. Well, spit it out, she told him, standing up and brushing off her coat. We found 3 bodies near the Forest of Death. They've been dead for a few days, which is why we were able to find them. The Chunin explained. They were in a small ditch covered by a genjutsu, but one of the patrols was walking by and noticed the smell. It was then that the genjutsu was noticed and dispelled and the bodies found. Anko knitted her eyebrows together. It sounded like a strange way of disposing of a body. Normally a fire jutsu would work, but that caused smoke, plus an earth one would cause tremors that could be felt and heard. This was an easy way of disposing of the bodies, and also said that whoever killed them didn't care if they were found eventually. Just as long as the bodies weren't found too soon. Is that all? Kakashi asked as he was curious as well. It's not. The faces of all the murder victims were, well, it looks like they were peeled off. Both Kakashi and Anko looked surprised at that, but more so with Anko. She knew of a technique that used that, but it couldn't be the one she was thinking of, because if it was, then they were all in a lot of trouble. Take me to them, now. Anko told the 3. The 5 of them hurried to where the bodies had been found. They hadn't been moved just yet, as a medical team would be arriving later to pick up the bodies. Anko looked over the forms. They were ninja, but they weren't from this village. She saw the headband of the grass ninja on them, and at first she thought a team had taken them out before the testing. But she could have sworn that she saw the grass team taking their places by a gate. And she was certain that grass only sent one team this year anyway. Looking at the faceless bodies, she took a closer look at how the flesh had been removed. It had been surgically removed by the looks of it. It was perfectly done. It was then that she noticed another thing. She knew this technique. It was unmistakable, as only one man in the world could have the skills and knowledge to do something like this, and it also meant she knew why the faces were taken. You 3. Anko shouted at the Chunin. We have imposters in the Forest of Death. Get any available Anbu units in there and then get the Hokage. Tell him about the bodies, and then tell him that I think he has finally returned home. One of them asked. Just do it now. Anko yelled, and the 3 Chunins were already off. Anko wasted no time in running towards the forest. She was so focused that she didn't even notice Kakashi was running alongside her until he spoke. Anko, what's going on? He asked her. He was a bit worried, as he had never, not once, seen her like this. It took a moment for her to be able to form the words. He's back, Kakashi. Orochimaru has come back to the village, and he's in the forest with all the genin. Kakashi's one visible eye widened. Everyone knew who Orochimaru was, of course. The inhuman crimes that man did were unspeakable. Kakashi even knew one of Orochimaru's test subjects while in Anbu. The man had been infused the DNA of the first Hokage, although that was kept secret for many reasons. The fact that Orochimaru was here was bad enough, but the fact that he was in the forest with the genins was even worse. Who knew what that man was up to? But it was obvious the genin teams were in trouble. His mind went to his son and his team, and he hadn't felt panic like this in a long time. It had been so long since he had to really worry about Naruto's safety, not since he was a young kid, with all those accidents that happened, and the one assassination attempt that guy stopped. His eye became hard as he raced with Anko into the forest. If Orochimaru even came near his team, he would do everything in his power to kill the man, even if he knew he would most likely die in the process. Then let's hurry and find him, Kakashi eventually said to her. Anko didn't say anything as she just nodded her head. Sure, she would have liked to face Orochimaru alone and kick his ass, but honestly she felt better with Kakashi with her. She knew he was a more powerful fighter than her, and she would need him to face her old teacher. Orochimaru, I don't know what you're up to, but I swear today is the day I'll make you pay for everything, Anko thought to herself. The grunt and the sound of a leaf genin hitting the ground was heard as the last member of the team fell unconscious. Standing around them was Team 7 as they started to search through the other genin team's stuff. Man, I feel a little bad roughing 'em up, Naruto said as he looked through the older boy's pockets. I mean, I know it's every team for themselves, but still they're from our village. Yeah, I know what you mean, Sakura said looking through the pouch on the girl she knocked out. But still they were the ones that tired to ambush us. Anyone even know who they are? No, Sasuke said, not finding the scroll on his opponent. I think they're a couple of years ahead of us. Ha, they're older and yet we still kicked their asses, Naruto smirked as he found a scroll. He took a careful look at it and jumped up for joy. Alright, they had one we needed. You sure it's the real one this time? Sasuke said as Naruto froze at that moment. Yesterday when they fought a team, Naruto said he got the scroll. Turns out it had been a dummy one with a genjutsu on it, and given Naruto's horrible ability with genjutsu they hadn't figured it out until Sakura took a look at it. By then the other team had long since gone. I think so, Naruto said taking a look at it. Sasuke sighed, Sakura. On it, she said as she took the scroll and gave it a decent look. Ha, it's real this time. Good job, now we just have to wait out a day and we can make our way to the tower. So why can't we just camp out near the tower? Naruto asked as they left the genin team behind them. Because how many other teams do you think would have thought up to stake out that area? Sasuke said to his friend. It's better to just wait it out and then make a rush for the tower, avoiding everyone else. Oh. Okay, that makes sense to me, the masked boy said as they continued on. They went on not even aware that they were being followed the entire time. It was starting to get dark when they decided to make camp for the night. They found a decent area where they could sleep inside of a hollowed out part of one of the old giant trees. Hey guys, I need to go take a leak, Naruto said. Geez, could you at least say it a better way than that? Sakura asked him. He just shrugged, smirking under his mask as he went off to find a place to relieve himself. He didn't want to get too far away because he might get lost or even ambushed. He went behind a few large trees a decent length from their camp. Even though he couldn't go too far, he also had to make sure he wasn't too close. If there were any trackers like Kiba out there, then they could find him a lot more easily that way. He found a decent place and unzipped as he relived himself on a rock. Actually, he found it was a very weird looking rock now that he started looking at it. Sure, it looked hard like rock, but it was kind of a strange color and the surface looked odd too. Then suddenly a piece of the rock lifted up to reveal an eye looking at him. Naruto's eyes widened because he knew that kind of eye, but it didn't process until what he thought had been a rock he was peeing on lifted up into the air. Oh crap, Naruto yelled out as he jumped out of the way of the giant snake striking. What the hell? If this is because of the crazy snake lady, I'll get her back. She never said anything about giant snakes. Naruto was focused on trying to keep ahead of the giant snake. Thankfully he had plenty of practice avoiding snakes with Anko. Although he had never had to deal with one this big before, and it was a challenge to keep ahead of it. Man, what the hell is going on? I mean, this is insane, crap, and on top of that I think I got turned around. I can't tell where camp is. Well, with all the noise this guy is making, the others should have no problem finding me. The huge snake crashed through a tree just to get at Naruto, and he was wishing he hadn't peed on its face to get it this mad. Naruto had to dodge this thing, and still trying to get his fly up, he took to the tree branches and finally he managed to get his clothing in line. Yes. Alright, now you freak, I can concentrate on. Naruto was caught off. When he had been distracted by finally getting his pants right, he had lost track of the snake for a bit. It had gone under the branch and came up under him. With its massive jaws it swallowed Naruto whole and the branch he had been on. Meanwhile, back at Team 7's camp, the two genin heard the noise in the forest. What the hell is going on out there? Sasuke wondered out loud. It sounded like huge no-holds-barred brawl was going on in the forest nearby. Do you think Naruto is okay? Sakura asked her teammate. I mean, didn't he go off in that direction? Sasuke sighed as he realized that she was right, and knowing Naruto's ability for attracting trouble, he wouldn't be surprised if he was in the middle of all of this. We better go and save the idiot before he gets hurt. Sakura nodded as they leapt up to the treetops and traveled among the branches. It wasn't too hard to figure out where to go with the amount of noise that was being made. But then it suddenly stopped and Sakura was getting worried. They only made it a few yards when suddenly a kunai was thrown into their path as they had to avoid it. Both of them looked to see a tall female with a grass symbol on her forehead protector. Out of our way, Sasuke said, annoyed. We don't have time to play with you. Oh, but I think you do now, she said in a smirk on her face. My little pet seems to have caught that mouse of a teammate of yours, so there is no reason for you to hurry. What did you do to Naruto? Sakura shouted out at her. She only chuckled in amusement at her outburst. Oh, don't worry, I get the feeling you will join him shortly. After all, it's the Uchiha that I'm here for. I don't know who you are, but you're getting out of our way. Sasuke said as he threw several shurikens at the grass nin. He was surprised by how easily the other person evaded the deadly weapons, but at any rate that was just the distraction. Sakura came up on the blind side with her tonfas ready to strike, but the female was just too fast and was able to dodge Sakura's attacks. She snapped out a kick that Anko taught her once while the older woman had been training her with her weapons. She thought that she was going to connect with it, but the grass ninja just caught it and looked at her for a split second, almost like she finally took notice of Sakura. Now where did you learn that little move from? She grinned at her. Tell me, was Anko playing teacher lately? You know Anko-sensei. Sakura blurted out, surprised. Of course, I did teach her that kick, but you came in at the wrong angle. This is how it's done. With that, the grass nin gave the same kick, only this time it hit Sakura. She felt the power of the kick and was stunned for a moment. While getting up, she was trying to piece together what the woman had said. It didn't make sense, as the woman looked too young to have been a teacher to Anko, and she wasn't even from this village. As she watched the strange woman fighting Sasuke, she couldn't help but notice a few things. A few of the moves looked like what Anko fought with, only more polished and better. But at any rate, the woman's back was to her, and so Sakura threw out her kunai at her. But the woman somehow knew and dodged the weapons easily enough. I have to admit, you two are proving to be slightly entertaining, but I'm still disappointed in you, Sasuke. I expected better from. Fine then, how about this? Sasuke made the hand seals and suddenly a flaming dragon came at the grass ninja. It was quick and fast and followed with the female ninja's movements until it consumed the other ninja. Both Sasuke and Sakura got together as they watched the charred wood of the large branches they were fighting on. Where's the body? Sakura asked as she got into a fighting stance. A chuckling sound was heard as out of the trees the figure seemed to step out. Now that is what I'm talking about. I didn't expect you to know that jutsu. You might just be interesting after all. Now let's see what else you can do. Elsewhere in the forest, Anko and Kakashi were trying their best to find Orochimaru and if possible to check in on the genin teams. So far they couldn't find any trace, which was both good and bad. Good because they didn't find any bodies, but bad because they still haven't found him. It was then that she noticed Kakashi's head suddenly snap up a bit. What is it? She knew that his sense of smell and hearing were above what a normal person had. Not as good as someone from the Inuzuka clan, but it was one of the reasons she was glad he was along. If anyone could help her track down Orochimaru, he could. I smell snake, he said, and then saw her dirty look. No, not from you, but the fact I smell it means we're close, plus I could have sworn I heard something too. Then lead the way, she told him as they increased their speed. It didn't take them long to find the destroyed area of the forest. Anko could see the telltale signs of a snake, and not just any snake. This was a huge one, larger than just any snake that lived in this forest, in fact. Only a summoned snake could be this big, and she told Kakashi just as much. He didn't seem to like it as much as her. It was then that they heard the slight noise before the attack. With years of training they were able to avoid the huge snake as it struck out at them. Well, I would say we found our first clue, Kakashi said, getting himself ready. So since you're the expert, how do we fight this? Before Anko could answer, there were sudden bulges in the snake. Even the snake's face started to show some surprise as giant popping sounds were heard, and then suddenly there was a series of explosions and the entire area had snake guts and pieces raining down. Both Kakashi and Anko were just so suddenly stunned by both what happened and the fact they were now covered in snake guts. Oh man, maybe I should have just used normal shadow clones instead of the exploding ones. Naruto's voice was heard. He was the worst out of them all, as you could hardly make out any other colors than red. Naruto's ears were ringing a bit from the explosions, but he thought that the exploding shadow clones would be a surefire way to get out. He hadn't thought of the after effects it would have though. Naruto. The blonde looked up to see Kakashi and Anko there. Oh hey dad, what are you two doing here? Both adults were at a lose for words. Here was a kid that blew up a snake from the inside and he acted like nothing had happened. Both Anko and Kakashi could feel things slipping through a few places in their clothing and would need a shower after this. Naruto, where is your team? Kakashi finally asked him. Naruto looked around but he had no idea where he was now. Sorry, the snake moved after it ate me, but I think it might be over that way, I think. Well, better than nothing, Kakashi sighed, hoping they would arrive in time. Meanwhile, both Sakura and Sasuke were breathing hard. The battle had been totally one-sided in this fight as the grass nin was just playing with them, it seemed. It was painfully apparent that this was no genin, this had to be at least Jonin level. But for Sasuke, he was having trouble thinking of why someone of this caliber was posing as a genin, and why was she going after him personally. It didn't matter anyway as they had to concentrate on surviving this battle. Well, I have to thank you, it's been a while since I've enjoyed myself like this, the strange nameless woman taunted them. But I think it's time to see just how strong you are. With that, the person actually started to peel away part of her face. There was pale skin under it that was practically white. But it was the eyes that caught both genins' attention. They were yellow and looked like a snake. They were drawn to those eyes and it felt like they were caught in the grasp of a predator. Then they felt it, a wave of killing intent unlike anything they had felt before. It was more than what they experienced with Zabuza, this was far beyond that, they couldn't even move. Their bodies were frozen in place from just the fear they were feeling. Sakura had never felt anything like this before. She wanted to scream but couldn't. For Sasuke, this was even worse than that day his brother killed his family. The grass ninja laughed at this. Too bad. I didn't really expect you to fight through this technique of mine as only the truly strong can. But maybe just once more test to see if you're worthy, Sasuke. A few hand seals and suddenly there was a giant snake come into existence. If you can force yourself to move before he attacks, then it should prove all that I need. Sadly, I doubt the girl will survive, but he can eat her anyway. I don't need her. Sasuke's eyes widened as he saw the huge animal coming at him. He was still trying to move, but the fear kept his body frozen in place. It was like time was slowing down as the giant animal came down at him. It opened its mouth as the beast was going to eat him and Sakura. Then there was a sound like a large number of birds. Chidori. Kakashi came out of nowhere as he slammed his original jutsu into the head of the summon animal. When a summon was injured, it would go back to where it came from, but if someone was fast enough to give a lethal blow, that would kill the animal. The snake had been so focused that it hadn't noticed the copy ninja until the lightning attack had rammed through its head. There was a sizzling sound as it started to fry the snake's head. The large animal thrashed around before falling to the forest floor below with a huge crash as it died. Kakashi jumped off the head onto a branch between the two genins and the enemy, while Anko jumped in on the large branch that the other ninja was on. Well, isn't this a surprise? The grass ninja said, seeing Anko. I had hoped to run into each other again, but I'm a little busy at the moment, although I must admit I like the new look with all the blood and gore. Damn you, you bastard. Anko yelled at him, ignoring the comment on her appearance. I've been waiting to rip you apart for what you did to me. Oh, so it's only about you and not all the other things I've done. Well, isn't that just selfish of you? Shut the hell up, Orochimaru. Anko yelled as she charged towards the missing ninja. Naruto meanwhile managed to jump down to his teammates. He could see that after the snake thing was killed and Anko was taking on the weirdo, they dropped to their knees. Guys, are you two alright? Naruto asked them. Both of them seemed to be shaking. Naruto. Sakura asked, looking up at him, and then saw how he looked. Naruto, are you okay? Huh. You're covered in blood. Sasuke managed to get out. Naruto looked down and forgot his looks and just shrugged. It's okay, it's not mine. I got eaten by a snake and had to blow it up from the inside. That was kind of cool, but I really need a shower. I think there's some guts in my pant leg. Both of them just stared at him for a moment, just trying to process what had just happened between the crazy grass nin and Naruto's looks and his statement. I'm not bothering to comment, Sasuke muttered as he felt his nerves coming back to him. Who is that woman anyway? Sakura asked Naruto, hoping he might have some answers. She was pulling off her face. Dad and Auntie Anko told me that it's really Orochimaru, Naruto said. He knew all about him from Anko, plus they had told him a bit more about him on their way here. Orochimaru, of the Sannin? Sakura asked him. She remembered reading about the legendary three ninja. There wasn't much on Orochimaru, only that he was criminal that left the village years ago. Although the first thought was that Orochimaru was a man, not a female. Then she noticed the fighting and then it became clear. Anko was battling her old mentor. For years she wanted this. She had thought of this moment and it was finally here. She was trying her best against him, but she had never really fought him. Sparred with him when she was a young girl, but never fought in a life or death battle with him before, and she was learning that there was a major difference between the two. She cried out as she got a kick to her gut, sending her into the trunk of the tree. She held her ribs as the air was sent out of her lungs for a bit. She wanted to try and use this one technique that used snakes she had learned. She had never used it for the purpose that it would kill her as well as her target. A year ago she would have used that without hesitation. But things were different now. Now she actually found that she actually wanted to continue on living. She liked her life and didn't want to end it. Orochimaru stood over her as he pulled off his face to reveal his real one. Now I know something is off. Where is the killer I helped to raise? Normally you should be trying to fight without worrying for yourself or your safety. I have to wonder what changed. I guess you were too soft anyway. He raised his arm ready to strike her down. I think I'll just put you out of your misery then. You always were a failure. Get away from her. Kakashi yelled out as he slashed at him from behind. He had seen he was about to do something to her and he wouldn't allow it. This man had attacked his genin team, made a snake eat his son, and now was trying to kill his girlfriend. Sure, he knew that he didn't stand a chance against someone of that level, but he also couldn't sit by and let him get away with this anymore. Orochimaru smirked as he dodged the kunai. Ah, well, so little Anko-chan has finally found herself a man, and Hitaki Kakashi no less. He grinned at the man before him. I will have to admit I didn't see that coming. I figured her hate would have eaten her up inside for all her life. You have no right to say anything about her or anyone after the things you've done. Kakashi said coldly as both his eyes were now focused on the man. Well, defending your woman's honor is it? Orochimaru chuckled at the man. But I doubt it will matter in the end. I'm here for a purpose and you two are in my way, so I guess I'll just have to deal with you both. Orochimaru launched himself at the masked man and Kakashi just managed to get out of the way of his swing. Anko, seeing an opening, decided to attack from behind, launching her own snake attack. A long black snake came shooting out of her coat to bite the other man. Orochimaru somehow twisted his body in a way that no human body was designed to twist while leaning back. He grabbed the snake by the neck and pulled with monstrous strength, pulling her off her feet, and he swung her around into Kakashi. Naruto saw this and was anxious to get into fighting. Hey you creep, leave them alone. Naruto, no. Kakashi said as he and Anko pulled each other apart. Don't get involved in this, I want you all to run as far away as you can. What? You can't ask us to leave you behind. Naruto, I'm telling you as your sensei to run. This man is too powerful for you three alone. Kakashi said to them, hoping they would run. He didn't want to see them hurt, and also if he was after one of them then it wouldn't be good no matter what the reason was. Sorry, but I can't have them running off. Orochimaru smirked as he raised both arms as a large number of snakes came shooting out of the sleeves. Both Anko and Kakashi were put onto the defensive as they had to constantly dodge the poisonous vipers. Anko had a better time as she knew what to look for in a snake, how it moved when he stalked and attacked. Kakashi stayed ahead thanks to his experience and his Sharingan eye. He managed to get behind a trunk as he took a breather. Kakashi knew that they would need to take him by surprise. Orochimaru was above their level, so they would have to get in one good shot and then capitalize on it. He had a move that could work. The only problem was that it could drain him of a lot of chakra. He didn't use this move often because of that drawback, but he needed to use that technique now because he wasn't sure how much longer they could keep on the defensive. Anko had managed to get behind a trunk as well as she tried to plan out an attack of her own. She didn't get far as the bark seemed to explode next to her. She felt small bits and pieces cut against her skin, but she kept on moving, only to realize too late that it had been to get her to move in that direction. Orochimaru came out from behind and she felt fangs bit her thigh. She saw a snake had bit her. Thankfully, from her training with Orochimaru, she was immune to most of his poisons. After all, handling snakes, it was important to have an immunity to it in case of accidents. But she felt the numbing effect in her leg. It was a toxin, but it wasn't fatal, it would just slow her down, and that was a bad thing in a fight with him. She paused as she had to regain her balance but felt a vibration in the trunk. She turned and threw out several shurikens at Orochimaru as he ran at her. He dodged the weapons and Anko tried to get ready for his attack. But then Kakashi jumped out in front of her. Kakashi, get out of the way. Anko yelled at him in warning, but it came too late. Orochimaru's fist hit Kakashi, but there was a sudden flash as Kakashi literally exploded into electricity. There was a large bright flash that blinded Anko for a few seconds, but there was just a scorch march left where Kakashi and Orochimaru had been. It was then that the real Kakashi stepped out behind a tree, panting as he was sweating and tired. That technique took a lot out of him and he wouldn't be able to do anything else for a bit. He leaned against the trunk of the tree to catch his breath. What the hell was that? Anko asked as she limped over to him. Lighting clone, Kakashi said with some effort. But don't ask me to do that again. I'm lucky to get through to a day, but after using a Chidori and a few other things I don't have the energy. Anko grinned at him. That was a pretty badass move. Maybe I can pull something like that off with fire. That could be interesting. Kakashi grinned at her under his mask. So touching, Orochimaru's voice was heard as he appeared seemingly out of nowhere. He looked slightly charred as his arm had electrical burns on it. I have to admit that one nearly got me. It wasn't a joke either. When he had attacked, he felt a bit of that energy in him before he was able to slip out of it. His arm felt bad, and if he hadn't used a special escape jutsu of his own design, he might have been greatly injured by that move. He would have to perform the oral rebirth jutsu when he could. That was a technique he also came up with that allowed him to shed his damaged body as a refreshed one came out of his mouth, although it took some energy to regenerate the cells of his body to make that new copy. Orochimaru's opened up as a snake came out of it, and then that snake opened its mouth as a sword came out. This was the Kusanagi sword, long sword of the heavens, a legendary sword that was said to be able to cut through anything. The sword shot out as it kept on increasing its length as it came at the two ninja. They dodged the attack as it cut the large top of the tree like it was paper. The large mass came down in a mass of destruction as breaks broke in loud snaps, sending wood, splinters and leaves everywhere. A falling tree was dangerous as any woodcutter can tell you, but with the huge trees in around Konoha that was even more dangerous. Wood that size being thrown around with that kind of force could cut off limbs or impale a person. Kakashi lost sight of Anko in the confusion as he tried to dodge as much as he could, but his body was tired. He was too drained of energy from the lightning clone, and with his Sharingan he was running too low on chakra. He was literally running on fumes, and it felt that at any second he would collapse. Kakashi shook his head as his vision blurred. He couldn't stop. There were too many lives on the line that he cared about. He had already lost everyone that meant something to him once, and he wouldn't let it happen again. Unfortunately for him, he was too tired and focused on staying awake to see Orochimaru until it was too late. He felt the man's hand on his face as he was shoved back into a trunk of another tree. His body made a dent into the wood as Orochimaru slammed his head into the wood a few times until he saw a stain of blood on it. He grinned as he now had a way to get Anko out in the open. He threw the limp form of Kakashi away, letting him freefall to the ground below. As Kakashi fell off the branches towards the ground, he also slammed against a couple of the thick branches, bouncing off them before being caught by Anko. She had seen him falling and couldn't let him hit. At that height it would kill him if he landed like that. So she got out of her hiding spot and went to save him. She managed to get him onto the ground and saw that his eyes were closed and blood from his head. He had hit his head pretty bad. There was a lot of blood, but that wasn't a bad thing. Scalp wounds just bleed out a lot. Most likely he just had a cut and it would stop bleeding soon. But with using up all the chakra and the head injury, it wasn't a good thing. You should have been more careful of your surroundings, Orochimaru said as he appeared behind her. She tried to move against him, but suddenly the seal on her neck flared up in pain. And no, not now, Anko said through gritted teeth. Too bad you never embraced that power. If you had, then my seal wouldn't be your weakness, Orochimaru gloated over her. Then again, it's because you lack the desire for power that you were useless to me. All that training I did to shape you into what you were was all a waste. Oh well, you were helpful in testing out my new curse mark, so it wasn't all a waste. Bastard. She managed to get out. She tried to move, but her body wouldn't respond. It was locked up and she hurt all over. Then she felt a strong punch to her ribs and not only felt but heard the ribs crack. She fell backwards as Orochimaru grabbed her leg and threw her face forward into the tree. She cried out in pain and slumped to the ground unmoving. Now then, where are those children? Orochimaru smirked. Wind Blade Jutsu. Grand Fireball Jutsu. Orochimaru turned to see a fire jutsu coming at him, but when the wind jutsu hit it, the fire molded with the other. It looked like a giant arrow made of fire as it came at him. The missing nin jumped out of the way to look to find all three kids were still there. Wow, how did that happen? Naruto asked, surprised. Wind makes fire stronger, Naruto, Sakura said to him. So they complemented each other and kind of merged to form something new. Oh man, we really need to try that out later, Sasuke, Naruto grinned. We still have a problem, Sasuke said, looking at the paled-faced man. Weren't you three supposed to run away? Orochimaru grinned at him. This would make things so much easier now than chasing them down. Plus, with all the fighting, it would only take Anbu time to lock in on the location. Sure, the forest was large, but with all the battle damage they caused, it would leave an obvious trail for trained Anbu agents. A man who breaks the rules is trash, Naruto said with a bit of steel in his voice. But a man that abandons his friends is worse than trash. So what's that way about someone that abandons their family? Such sentimentality, the man said with a sneer. It's garbage like that, which is one of the reasons I can't stand this village anymore. Such weakness will only lead to pain and death. Here, let me show you. With that, Orochimaru picked Anko up by her neck. She was still stunned but cried out in pain. She felt a lot of pain in her upper chest, maybe a broken collarbone which being lifted up like that was one of the last things she needed. Orochimaru started to squeeze her throat, cutting off her cries of pain in a choking, gagging sounds. Let her go, Naruto roared at him. The others noticed something strange about Naruto just then. They were feeling a killing intent from him that wasn't normal. In fact, they never felt anything like it before. Sakura was shocked when she looked at him. His eyes had changed, they were blood red with slits in them. Before she could process any further, the dark feeling from Naruto increased, causing her to freeze up. Sasuke wasn't much better. Whatever was coming off of Naruto was evil, which didn't make sense as Naruto was the least evil person he knew. Sure, they argued, fought and were rivals, but he had grown to respect Naruto, and after being put on a team with him he learned to actually like the guy in some strange way. So feeling this strange malevolent force coming off of Naruto was just too much of a shock to his system. Maybe if he had been prepared for it, but this was the first time feeling something like this. Actually, maybe it wasn't. He wasn't sure, but this strange feeling was familiar. For some reason, a long forgotten memory of waking up in bed years ago as a small child came back to him. He felt like he had some kind of panic attack in the middle of the night. He didn't remember much, only that the next day people had been nervous. This was back when his brother was still in Anbu. Before either of the two teammates could shake off the shock of the evil killing intent coming off Naruto, he moved. In fact, he moved faster than ever. Naruto was nearly a blur as he came at Orochimaru, but the man just stood there smiling. So predictable, Orochimaru thought to himself. The boy's feelings are letting the demon within gaining some control. Just like that Gaara boy, but I can't let this boy as he is. He's too interesting to kill just yet. Maybe I should save him for later. After all, they will be after him soon enough, and if they find out that I killed the host, they will come after me. So I'll just take him off the board for now. A counter seal should be enough. Orochimaru waited until Naruto was close enough and threw Anko aside as he readied his hand. His other one was too damaged to move properly, so he had to time this just right. His fingers started to glow as different seal words showed on each finger. He quickly came forward under Naruto's swing and slammed his fingers into where he knew where the seal was. Naruto cried out in pain and shock as the demon's chakra was suddenly sealed off from him. The pain was so intense that Naruto passed out. Naruto! Sakura yelled out as she jumped forward with her own weapons, Sasuke right behind her. Enough games for today, Orochimaru said to himself as he moved so fast it was like a blur to the genins. Sakura felt a hard blow to her head before hitting the ground and passing out. Sasuke looked around for the man, his sword ready. But Orochimaru had fought Sharingan users before, especially Itachi, and he knew how best to fight them. He came up from behind as his neck extended and fangs bared. He bit into Sasuke's neck. The boy howled in pain as it was like someone was pouring fire into his veins. He let the boy fall to the ground and stood amongst the bodies grinning. Now it was only a matter of time before the boy would seek him out for power. He chuckled to himself as he melted into the shadows of the forest to repair the damage done to his body and to get ready for the next part of his plan. That will be it for this video. If you want more, comment down below, like, subscribe. And see you guys later.